Saying for both of you guys, since you guys have been in the industry for a little bit and you guys have your mentors and different things and you do have mentees, what advice would you give us that students coming out of a program or into the financial planning world that are going to be fresh in their career, and then also maybe someone 5, 6 years down the road in their position? What advice would you give both sides of the spectrum?
Adam, Alayna, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. You're both students at Virginia Tech and you're financial planning students. But I got a different question for you. What's your favorite non-financial planning course that you've taken at Virginia Tech?
It's a good question. I would say acting. I have never been an actor. My sister is kind of a theater nerd, but I am not that way. I played sports my whole life. I played volleyball, and acting made me come out of my shell. And we did a bunch of different plays and different things. So that was really fun. And a class that I never thought I would have to be in, but I ended up in.
Now, did you pick the acting class or it was just something you ended up in?
I actually did pick the class because people told me it was fun and the teacher was awesome. There was lots of different students that obviously weren't in planning, so I ended up in the class and I loved it. So it was great.
Very cool. Adam, any classes you would add?
Mine's not as cool as hers. I'd say mine is probably just a U.S. history class. I'm just kind of learning about more in-depth knowledge on U.S. history and getting an idea of some of the things that are coming up in the news here over the past year or so. But it's just good baseline knowledge to have. Kind of as you graduate college and go into the real world and kind of pick up on some of those buzzwords that you hear on a daily basis.
Absolutely. That's definitely a topic that I go through every once in a while. I'm like, oh man, I need to brush up on my US history. It's been 6 months.
Yeah. For me, it was since high school before I took that history class. So it was definitely good to brush up on and, kind of have that good foundation.
Excellent.
I definitely share that sentiment. I think history just in general is better than any imagination because it's all documented. You can just read different perspectives. So I'm very pro history and just learning where everything comes from. So I definitely looking forward to hearing your updates, Adam. So that'll be a great pivot. So everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Deshawn Peterson with my co-host Mike Zarrelli, and we have another great episode of the Blueprint and FPA Next Gen podcast. And today we have a different perspective, but these guests are just as spectacular as everyone else. Today we would like to welcome Alayna Woodall and Adam Taylor, who, as Mike mentioned, are seniors at Virginia Tech, and they are financial planning majors. So everyone digitally listening and watching, please just give them a round of applause. Great. So let's just jump right into it. Alayna, let's start with you. If you could just give us a little bit about, not just about who you are, but how did you come to this decision that you want to major in financial planning? There are a lot of different avenues, and one of the things we're trying to unveil with the podcast is just the different tracks. So you have like a traditional method where maybe you come out of school, you get exposed to the industry, you might go through a traditional track like associate analyst, etc., or someone like myself, where I spent the first, I'll say, decade of my career in tech and let's say international, and then pivoted into financial services, investment management. So, Alayna, I would love to kick it over to you, and then after you, Adam, we're not going to forget about you. Want to get your perspective as well.
Yeah, so great question. I have no family that's financial planners or anything, and I think that's how a lot of at least my colleagues and younger students in this major have gotten into it. My grandma actually had her financial advisor come down from Virginia Beach and visit her down in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And he was just doing that out of the kindness of his heart, and because my grandma's old and doesn't want to travel. So I ended up sitting in their meeting and just listening to them go through some portfolio analysis and what's going on, updates. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I ended up chatting with him just a little bit after, asking him questions like, what do you actually do? I don't know what financial planning is. Who are you to my grandma and why are you at her house? So that was really cool to see him describe how much the industry is just about people and making a connection. And that's why he's here at her house, is because he cares about her as a client. And I thought that was really cool, as like such a cool job that I never thought existed. And he talked a lot about the psychology behind financial planning and how that plays in to being a good advisor for your clients. So I thought that was really cool. I knew I wanted to do finance. I knew I didn't want to be sitting typing at a desk all day, which obviously is part of the job, but I love talking to people. I have a lot of energy. And so I figured going into school, financial planning is the way to go. I met up with a girl in my business fraternity at the time who was like, you need to meet our director of the program and chat with him, learn about some jobs, learn about the industry. And I think maybe 2 weeks later, I switched my major to financial planning. We had it was just a concentration for a while, and it just became, I think 2 years ago, an actual major, so that's really exciting, and then ever since then, I've been in it, and I'm doing the thing. Here I am, about to graduate.
Yeah, kind of similar to Alayna here. After I transferred into Virginia Tech after my freshman year, I just so happened to choose financial planning and wealth management. And really, I made that choice. I knew I wanted to do finance, and that was really because I loved talking finances with my grandfather. He was a finance guy. And as I started to become more aware of the markets and more aware of the news, and I was whoa, wow, what's this headline? And I talked to him about it, and it was really interesting just to kind of see the movements and the analytical background to that. So I was like, okay, I think finance is something I'd be interested in, and I just so happened to choose financial planning and wealth management, which ended up being a blessing. Once I got on campus here, sophomore year, took those baseline, business classes, finance classes, and then once I got into the that first financial planning and wealth management class, I was like, wow, like I think this is really something that I'd be interested in. And I think it really just, like Alayna had mentioned, it really combines, the analytical side, looking at the markets, portfolio management, taxes, those sort of thing. But also having a client facing role, not being stuck behind a desk and, talking to people and, making an actual impact in people's lives. And I think that's what really drew me to the industry, evidently.
I love that in both of your stories, your grandparents were involved. Like it had an experience or a conversation with your grandparents. So it is so true how much our parents and grandparents can have an influence on what we decide to do.
Yeah, and especially I find it interesting now that we talk so much about how the baby boomer generation is, we're transferring everything this way, and now they've transferred this job to me, and that's who we need in the industry, is more people coming out of school. So it kind of just works out great.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Virginia Tech is, from what I've heard, a pretty great program. And I'm in the DC area myself. So I always say these Virginia Tech financial planners are crawling around, and I'm sure Riley's laughing in the background. But what resources at Virginia Tech have been really helpful in getting you to this point and helping you prepare to launch your careers in financial planning?
I think one of the biggest things is we have an FPA Virginia Tech chapter. So we have advisors coming in every single Monday that just talk about the industry, talk about what their firm is up to. They will even be like, we're hiring. So come shake our hand and let us know if you need an internship or a job. That's one of the biggest and most helpful things. Even if there's not an FPA chapter at your school, just the local chapter of FPA is awesome. So I think that is one of the most beneficial things that has helped me in my career so far as a financial planner.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to spread a little spotlight here on Professor Lineberry, Jesse Lineberry, the director of the department that Alayna was talking about earlier. I mean, he's just incredible. Just from helping people with resumes to helping them get jobs. Like I think he really does lose sleep at night when he doesn't have seniors in our class that don't have jobs. So to have, a supporting figure like that, that's not only your professor, but it's also, there by your side, almost like as a mentor, makes the world of a difference. And I think, in the financial planning and wealth management major here, it's almost like a community. And I think we really pride ourselves in that. And, we're walking from class to class together, and Professor Lineberry is having to quiet us down at the beginning of class because we're talking and we're all friends. And it's just like, I think that's really cool. And, when I talk to some of my colleagues that are in other majors, it's not really like that. So it's really cool to kind of have that sense of community and just have someone that has your back there, like with Professor Lineberry.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. A really cool point about the community side because it doesn't stop there. It actually increases and gets better as you become a young career financial professionals. You may have heard of Next Gen Gathering. That's like the hottest young financial planner conference. And the second you go, you're going to be like, whoa, that energy was addicting because people are there, friendships are being made, ideas shared. It's such a great community. And it's cool that you're having it at the college level right now.
Yeah, I mean, even the FPA members that we have that come and speak at our FPA chapter, I mean, every single one of them is like, look, like, how can we help you? It's not as much as like, oh, how can we cater this towards our firm and, us to make sure that we feel comfortable presenting? It's a lot more like, how can we provide the most benefits to the students, which I think just makes the world of a difference because, we have anyone from freshmen who are just learning what financial planning is to seniors that are trying to find jobs at the last minute here, right? So I think it's really cool to have, these representatives come in that are so willing to cater their presentations to whatever it is, our needs sort of thing. Just going to your point of how there's so much support and it really doesn't end here at Virginia Tech in the sense of community. It's great.
Yeah, gathering was everything. So I'm a huge fan of it. I think if you have the opportunity, just go, just do it. You won't be disappointed. Actually, I think it's something that I didn't know I needed until I left. I was like, oh, it's over. But I guess to piggyback on that, so since a community, and you mentioned that you're both seniors, what is this year feeling like for you, and how are you preparing for that transition? I'm not sure if you have opportunity scheduled, but how are you just preparing? What using those resources? What are you doing personally? What are you doing professionally? What are you doing to actually get into the field of financial planning?
Yeah, so Alayna and I are both on the exec board there for FPA at Virginia Tech here. So I think that's, one route that both of us are using to kind of give back to the program and, because we've gotten so much from it. So we're just trying to give back before we, head out the door sort of thing. But yeah, just using the resources that we've had here at Virginia Tech, using Professor Lineberry, kind of brushing up on all those different tax rules and different, insurance rules and whatnot before we hit the ground running. And really just getting comfortable talking to professionals. And I think that's one big thing a lot of people have talked about is, these young students, young professionals getting comfortable in a professional setting, talking and representing themselves well. So just kind of brushing up on those things and getting ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think you kind of asked how we were feeling, and me and Adam were all in a meeting last week, and I almost started crying because I just was so sad. I love this program, I love this school, I love my friends, and it has brought me so many things that I just never would have thought it would. But I think the biggest thing that's helping me prepare to be in the industry is honestly teaching other students, like younger students, about the industry, because that helps me learn a lot is by, telling them questions to ask or how they should be prepared for an interview and different things. I thought that has really brought a lot to me. And also just me asking questions at our FPA meetings that's like, okay, we're entering the real world. How do we be adults when we were just college kids 5 minutes ago? So, what can we do that will impress our future boss or employer or whoever that will really make us stand out?
I guess another question to piggyback on that. You're seniors in school, but Virginia Tech financial planning major, if I'm not mistaken, satisfied the coursework for the CFP exam. Where are you on that? Are you going to take it sooner, later? How are you feeling about it? I think that would just be a good point to jump from.
Yeah, so I'm definitely of the belief that I want to get it over with while it's still kind of fresh in my head, and I'm kind of used to studying, sort of thing. So I'm currently planning to take it in July, which kind of puts me in the area of starting to study around spring break, so early March. So that's going to be definitely an interesting experience, just kind of juggling school, and my part-time job here, and also studying. But I think it really helps that we are in a senior capstone class this semester, where it's almost going through every single facet of financial planning and everything that we've learned here. So while I'm doing that, it'll hopefully go hand in hand with the review course that I end up choosing.
Yeah, I think, like Adam said, not waiting a long time. For a while, when I was like a sophomore and junior, I was planning on waiting 2, 3 years and getting some experience and understanding more real world situations before I took this test. But I've gotten a lot of advice that the test is you have to learn how to take the test. Not usually, sometimes real world situations will end up being different than what the test answer might want. So I think just maybe sometime in November next year is when I'm shooting to take it. I again am going to start studying probably for not like some small SIE and Series 7 maybe in the next month or two and try to get those out of the way and start learning how to study for harder tests like that. And then CFP will come next year once I get more comfortable in my big girl job and everything.
I love the advice you shared, and that is absolutely right. The test, there's typically two answers that are right, one that's more right, but that's just the test, the nature of the test. In the real world, sometimes the wrong answer is the right answer because financial planning has two components to it, the financial side and then the emotional side. And a lot of times that emotional side, it just throws a multiple choice test out of the water. So I wanted to transition a little bit, kind of on the similar track. Right now, you're seniors. You're in the last home stretch of your college careers. Tell us about the job prospecting, job hunt. Like, what has worked well? What has been a difficult spot for you? And anything else you would like to share?
So I I interviewed a lot. I just would take any interview and just run with it. I had this goal in mind that I really wanted to move down south and not to Northern Virginia where a lot of people are. And what I did was I ended up getting my job just by shaking the guy's hand who came to FPA and asking if they had a job opening in the summertime. And he said, "Actually, I think so. Let me connect you with this person." And we did an interview and it worked out. But I think it honestly helps doing a lot of interviews just because you get so much practice and you learn more about yourself. You learn what firms are looking for and answers and different things. And that's what I would recommend is just keep interviewing. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, it puts your face out there to people and it helps you grow as a professional in learning how to answer questions and sit up straight and like be more professional because it's hard as college students. We don't really know exactly how to be the best professional or advisor yet. So that would be my advice in how I got my job.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think that's some of the advice that we've been giving some of the younger members here in FPA is just put yourself out there, and it's definitely going to feel uncomfortable for the first few. I mean, I felt extremely uncomfortable going up and shaking my first hand after FPA. Once you do one, and then it's kind of a snowball effect. The second one, and then the third one, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's like. And obviously, when you get more comfortable and you get more confident, and you come off that you're carrying yourself very professionally and you're kind of used to those situations. So I completely agree with just keep taking those interviews. That's great advice. I'm fortunate enough to where last summer I had an internship up in Northern Virginia, and I got a return offer, so I accepted that back in August. So I'm blessed to not have to have gone through the hustle that Alayna has gone through. But so
That's a good point because back in my college days, it was kind of difficult to get an internship, especially in financial planning. Can you tell us a little bit about finding internships that work well with college students?
I think some advice that, well, we are fortunate that we have the FPA program and they come and they offer internships. And our professor sends out a list of internships and jobs every week. But to the people that doesn't happen to and aren't as lucky to have that, emailing whatever email is on a website in an area you want to go to. Say you want to go to Northern Virginia fee only or fee based planners in the area, and then emailing whoever is on the website. And sometimes calling helps, hearing their voice, hearing you take the initiative of, hey, I'm really looking for an internship. And then also just someone in the finance department or in your business school will know people that are in advice or in financial planning. So going to them and asking them what opportunities they have, who can I talk to, and just sending your resume and cover letter and thank you for taking the time to read my email is it's not too hard, but the first one is tough. And then you just do it.
Yeah, from a young age, my dad always told me it's not what you know, it's who you know. So exhausting those connections and those networks, and I think for us having the Virginia Tech network, that's a great resource to have to almost exhaust first and look for job opportunities through there. And then obviously, if there aren't opportunities that come up through those connections, whether you go to the same school as them, went to the same high school, live in the same area, that sort of thing. If you can find those commonalities, obviously that's a great place to start. But then work into the kind of cold emailing, and having those polished resumes and cover letters. That's a great way to kind of stand out. And doing research on the firm, I think that's a big thing that Pamplin College of Business here preaches just before our career fairs and whatnot. Is having a baseline of what the company actually does. So you can kind of cater your questions towards that, or you have an understanding of what the person that you're speaking to does. So it's just great to have that baseline knowledge. And I think that kind of, helps you stand out when you have someone that's looking at 100, 150 resumes sort of thing. It's kind of hard to differentiate yourself.
I definitely share that. As someone who's hired interns and interviewed, the follow up is so crucial. Like just the follow up, just the extra step, because you have multiple touch points. And I definitely follow up. That's just the name of the game, follow up. So hats off to the both of you and the opportunities you have in front of you. Last question I have is really, you both are on the board of FPA. I want to keep this like an open-ended question, right? What has it done for you? What would you tell people who have or are considering joining, but just aren't over the hump yet? So that would be like a part A, part B to the same question. So Alayna, if you could open up, that would be great. And also talk about your role as well, like not because I think that also influences your experience within the organization.
So I am the vice president behind Adam. He's the president. And we basically just are there as a mentor to the students, the younger students. We're there to make sure people are showing up to FPA meetings and understanding how beneficial it is to come to these meetings. We also recently just got an financial planning advisory board for Pamplin. So we have done meetings with them just with a student's perspective. What can we help with? And they can help us partner and make our program better. I have, through this role, I've really just gotten to meet awesome people and learn more about how I love coaching people and I love helping people that don't know about this industry. Like this podcast is awesome because you guys are doing exactly that. And I've just, I don't know, I love it. It's such a great opportunity. The advice I would give for people that have not taken the leap of faith to go or to join their chapter is to bring a friend. As long as you have a familiar face there, it will help so much in just being able to sit there and absorb the knowledge. There's so many terms and things that get thrown out during the meetings that the more you hear it over and over again, you learn, and that you just learn so much through these meetings. And I would say I just have learned that I love being a mentor. I got a job through this. I've helped people get internships. And so it's been so rewarding just working with awesome people like Adam and our professor and everybody, and learning more and more about the industry. And me and my other friend on the board started the Instagram for our FPA. And that has been really fun just to give back. And we take pictures of the firms. We do a write up of what they're talking about each week. And that's been really cool that I haven't seen from a bunch of programs. So, yeah, it's been an awesome, awesome experience. I started going back sophomore year. So, I would say go. We are all friendly. I feel like every financial planner I ever meet is friendly. So, I promise we would never be mean if you come to Virginia Tech's FPA. We'll be friends. We can be BFFs. But just bring a friend and come, and we'll hang out and have a great time and learn about the industry. So,
Yeah, the Instagram has been awesome. Alayna and our other colleague, I think they've gotten us up to around 300 followers here since like August, which has been fantastic. Kind of just spreading the outreach of the major, because as Alayna mentioned earlier, it is a relatively new major. In the Department of Finance, it is still kind of small, so we are in the growth phase. But yeah, as Alayna was mentioning, just giving back to the program and trying to spread all the knowledge that has been bestowed upon us into the younger generation. I say younger generation, but they're only a few years younger than me. Um, but yeah, just trying to keep the momentum that we have, kind of hopefully continued here at FPA and also in financial planning going. And meeting with the advisory board is awesome because we have these Hokie alum and people that are very supportive of the program, and talking to them and bouncing ideas off them of how to grow the program and how to continue the marketing and the outreach, which has been fantastic. And I think the board it boils down to just the fact that we just enjoy giving back and like seeing people that we have built a relationship over these past few years kind of succeed and get the jobs they want. And that's just super fulfilling, which is awesome, because I think we're going into an industry where we're hoping to help people and see and continue to get that fulfillment from helping people in their careers and lives in general.
Yeah, absolutely. You both are doing excellent work and building up the infrastructure for not really the next generation, but the folks coming up behind you and the newer financial planners and financial services professional coming in. And I know that will continue as you launch your career. So it's really cool to see. Well, we're going to have a little record scratch moment, wicka wicka, and flip the script and have you guys ask us a couple of questions. Now, this podcast is for up and coming financial planners, financial services professionals, which include students, which they probably have the same questions that you guys have. So, Adam, why don't you give us the start and ask a question for Deshawn and me?
Great. So yeah, my first question is going to be for both of you guys. Do you guys have a mentor? If so, how has that person or figure played a role in your growth, both professionally and personally? And finally, I know it's a three-parter, so bear with me here. And the third part being, how would you recommend someone, a young professional, just breaking into the industry, kind of finding a mentor, and kind of facilitating that relationship?
Great question. I do have a mentor, and just to break it down, this is probably my fourth mentor. So don't cap yourself at a mentor. Give yourself some grace and allow yourself to grow and just meet people at different points of where you are and where they are. So that's the first question. Yes, I have a mentor. Second part was, how did I meet them? So my mentor, I met her via. Actually, I'm in another association, and I volunteer. So similar to FPA, I'm a very extracurricular person. I was okay at school, but I was great in associations. I was one of those overachievers. Let me be president of every club. And even in work, there are plenty of associations and financial investments and things like that. And for 2 years, I volunteered with this association. And then we built a rapport, but I admired her role, her history, how she carried herself. And one day, I want to say it's in November, we were just catching up because we just had our annual event in January. And I was just like, hey, would you mind being my mentor? And she was like, of course. Really building that relationship before the ask. I think that was a good thing, just because you want to make sure that you're not, I won't say judging a book by its cover, but just making sure that you're walking in similar paths, or that you feel the same today than as you did last year, because these things can come in ebbs and flows. So I would say that's where I found my mentor. Third question is, how will we go about it? I would say of all my mentors, I brought value to them. I would say maybe my earlier mentors, he's an older gentleman, and he was trying to pivot his business. So I said, okay, let me help you get online. Like, get him an IG, updated his website, and now he does lives and all this stuff. He's just taken off. But I really tried to make it a give situation, really trying to be a go giver and saying like, hey, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? In that situation. So I would say, yes, I have a mentor. Two, if you're going to find a mentor, go through your network, see if I would start trying to look 2, 3 steps ahead. I would say, like, if you're going from internship, don't just look at associates or analysts, look at the PMs or look at the owners, because they probably have a world of knowledge and the wisdom being away from that immediate role. So like if you're just going from like a senior to your first year, a lot of time maybe hasn't transpired. But if you're like 10 years out, you can really have that wisdom of saying like, well, this is what I wish I would told myself, but I can tell you. So I would say those are the bullet points I would stop on.
Deshawn, one thing I like about your answer is that you've had multiple, and relationships change over time. The needs between the mentor mentee relationship change over time. So don't feel bad if like the first mentor fizzles out and now you have to restart. That's kind of part of the journey. In my situation, so I work at a firm with 6 advisors, 3 senior advisors, and I got to have clients with every single one of those, which was really neat because each advisor had their own style of financial planning. One would be more about the relationship management part, the chit chatting before the meeting and the chit chatting after the meeting, and that was a big focus. Another was more focused on the emotional side, the core values, the goals, and it allowed me to really create my own style, a blend of all the different advisors I've worked with, to figure out how I like to do financial planning and lead relationships. Now, my manager, who's side note, a Hokie, Virginia Tech grad, she I would say is my real mentor. She's about 10 years older than me, has gone through a very similar journey, and can reflect back on her journey through the firm. She's been there 10 years now, and give me advice on things that she went through, how she handled conversations with our boss before. So that's been a really neat relationship. Another benefit that my company provided was the access to a business coach. So I was able to get monthly phone calls with a business coach that has nothing to do, no background in financial planning, but is more focused on leadership, growth mindset, and setting goals. And as a young advisor, especially if you don't have a firm that has like a very set career path, you can kind of feel lost. Like, what's the next step? Having a business coach is so great to have you verbalize and think through your own action steps, because this is a profession that doesn't have a lot of check boxes. A lot of what we do is intangibles, it's people skills, it's learning how to present, and it's hard to know that you're getting better. So having a business coach can really be super crucial in finding those next steps. Now, if I was to restart, how would I find a mentor? Number one, FPA now has a mentorship program where they, I think, I can't even remember the program who it's through, but they link up mentees, the group of mentees, with a group of mentors. So it's a great way to get your first mentorship out of the way. And then number two, I would say, again, go to gathering with the intention of finding a mentor, and look for somebody that has a very similar background or perspective as you, there was this one lady at the last gathering where she was the first generation American, African American woman, and she found someone with very similar aspects to her. And just one conversation, and now she has a mentor, and she was so excited about it. That made her whole conference. So, gathering, can't say enough good stuff about it.
FinServe, that's the org association.
Thanks, Deshawn.
I'm on that too. So I have a mentee under FinServe, and I actually run the mentorship program for FPA Illinois. We're launching in 3 weeks. But mentors come and go, and they don't have to, as Mike said, they don't have to be directly aligned in your industry. Mentorship is just really about growth and just having someone look at your situation objectively. So really just, give yourself the grace and the space to just find people who align with you and not be so bogged down or in the bottleneck, like, oh, they don't have all the check marks.
I like that a lot. I'm getting some good advice right now, honestly, sitting here. So one thing for both of you guys, since you guys have been in the industry for a little bit and you guys have your mentors and different things and you do have mentees, what advice would you give us that students coming out of a program or into the financial planning world that are going to be fresh in their career, and then also maybe someone 5-6 years down the road in their position? What advice would you give both sides of the spectrum?
I'll take that one first. For someone getting out of college and they're looking for a job, I would pick. Obviously, you gotta get a salary that's gonna pay the bills. That's for sure. But I would look or pay more attention to what's the best opportunity that I'm going to learn the most from. And specifically, it's going to be what job is going to allow me to be in client meetings right away. Because that is if you want to be a client facing advisor, it's going to take a lot of reps to build up that confidence. You're young and you're going to be working with people with money. Why are they going to want to listen to the bright eyed and bushy tailed young person? And it's all about the confidence in yourself. If you have confidence in the knowledge that you've taken, the test that you've passed, and now the experience that you're building, you have more knowledge than most people that even have $1 million or $2 million or $2 million. So getting client meetings right away, it's going to take a lot of reps. I believe in the 10,000 hours. It takes 10,000 hours to be an expert, which is going to be with 2,000 hours of work each year. That's going to be 5 years. It's going to take 5 years to really start feeling like an expert. So get the timer started ASAP. Now, for somebody that's maybe 6, 7, 5 years down the road into their careers, I think of the career path, there's like 3 stages. One is you're just learning the job, you're learning, solidifying your knowledge, getting the licenses. That's part 1. Part 2 is, okay, I've got the knowledge. Now I need to learn how to teach people. How do I present this information in a way that makes sense? And then number 4 is finding your style, your version of financial planning, because I cannot do things the way my boss does. He's great at what he does because he's practiced what his craft is. I need to figure out the way that I best teach and do financial planning, so that way I can be an effective communicator and financial planner. So you got to figure out what is your version of financial planning.
Okay, so I would say for both answers, if you're just graduating or 6 years, 7 years out, I would say never stop networking. Go out, go meet people all the time. Not just going out for drinks, but find an association, find your professional tribe, and go as deep as possible with them. And because it really will keep you uncomfortable, it will help you build that confidence. I'm a serial networker, and I still get nervous walking into the room not knowing anyone. But I know just the repetition of these are just people. And if I leave with a business card, then I know it's worth it. So just never get stagnant, never get comfortable. Just go meet people all the time. And don't feel that you have to meet people in your proximity. if like one thing I would say, make it fun. Don't try to think of work-life balance. Think about how work and life are the same thing. So if you want to meet people, if you have friends in Phoenix, find a FPA event in Phoenix and go meet people out there and just start planting flags in different places, because you might, as you said, Elaine, hey, I'm going down south. You might hate it. And you might say, but I have a great network in Seattle, so I'm gonna go over there. So I would say just try to network, be uncomfortable. I would say that's for fresh grads, 10 years, seniors, whoever. I think that's a skill set that would never go out of style. If you are a fresh grad, I would say follow up the stairs as fast as possible. Try to just make as many steps and make as many mistakes as possible, because they're going to happen anyway. Embrace them, eat them. You're going to learn, you're going to bump your head, but that's how we learn. So don't try to think your way through progress. We can't think our ways through life. You just have to go, right? For someone who's 6 to 7 years in, I would say lean into your skill sets, not lean into what you're good at, not what you want to be good at. I think that great example. Everyone might think, hey, I can do, content, or I can do this. Is talking your skill set, or is that something you want to be good at? You know, if you're really good at people and you're maybe okay at math, maybe the front facing is your skill set and you can lean into that, as opposed to forcing yourself to cover that 20%, right? I really believe in the 80-20 rule. So I would say that's probably something like find out what you're good at, not what you want to be good at, and just go all in on it, because those hurdles, or that compound effect of something that comes a lot natural plus hard work, will be way better than something you hate and you're not good at, right? So I would say those would be the things I would really try to soft circle.
Yeah, that's awesome. I pulled some points that you guys were saying. So, Deshawn, this summer I actually interned in Texas, and I'm from Virginia. I went to the FPA event in Dallas, Texas, and met so many people, and now have so many more like LinkedIn connections and, like you said, business cards. And then I ended up seeing one of the people that I met in Texas at Schwab Impact in California. So it's like so crazy how everyone just comes together. And then Mike, kind of what you were talking with about, you got to pay the bills, of course, but we get advice from advisors that's like five to $10,000 salary out of college is not what should be your deciding factor. It's who you're going to learn from. Later on down the road, the five to $10,000 is not going to matter. The information you learn is what is going to matter and how you're going to grow in your career. So I really like what you guys said about that. So thank you.
Thanks. I think we have time for one more question, if there are any.
Yeah, so this is just a general one for both of you guys again. So just tell me a little more about your experience working with FPA Next Gen, and why more people or why more financial planners should get involved.
Great question. And it has been so rewarding being a part of Next Gen. It's work. It's work, and it's volunteer work, and uh, you don't get a lot of highlights. It's not a glorious job, but working with some amazing people, like the next generation of leaders in the profession, is there. It's just the energy that you get. And then secondly, I think it's the relationships that you build. I always think about Deshawn and I. He was in Philadelphia when we first met. Now he's in Chicago. I'm in DC. Yeah, maybe we'd see each other at a conference or so, but we wouldn't be really good friends. Like, we're on texting basis right now. And that's a relationship that happened because of FPA Next Gen. And I just can't thank the programs they have enough for the friendships that it's allowed me to create. So I really, really harp on, like, the people that you meet can become really great friends. And then the last thing, of course, the writing opportunities, the skills that you get to build working on projects such as building up our LinkedIn page or starting this podcast. I think Deshawn and I can both say this has been a work in progress, and we've gotten so much better, including Riley too. So it's given us a lot of opportunities to sharpen our skills and make friends.
I share that sentiment, Mike. I think when we went to a gathering, it's like, oh, these are my friends. I think FPA is I think there are a ton of associations out there. I think with FPA, Next Gen in general. How do you say? There are things you do for work, and there are things you do with people from work. I think like Riley and Mike are people who I would hang out with outside of work, if that makes sense. So you do kind of, I think FPA is just really just my tribe. I really align with the mission of the association, with just advocacy, getting people in this space, diversity, financial planning as an industry, and just really how important it is that, we talk about the boomers and the great wealth transfer, but there's not enough advisors, CPAs, or anything to help usher that in. So I just think it's a great opportunity. It's a great association. Um, I don't know what else. I would just say how I got onto the FPA Illinois board. We did an interview season 1 with a guest, and we built a relationship maybe a year ago. And I went to Chicago. I was just scouting out the city. I met with her. We did an interview, and then we met again in the summer, just at another event. And just through that relationship, they was like, "Hey, do you want to lead the mentorship for Illinois?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I've been in Chicago maybe 6 months. So really, it can really just expedite what you're trying to get, but also people who are familiar with you across the nation are willing to like pull you up and say, "Hey, we're over here. Come hang out with us." So it's really just a welcoming community. So professionally, I think it's just a great group of people. I think top wide, I feel like mini gathering. If you all want to look at it, I think that's a good one in Kansas City. The Missouri side, there is a difference. Um, and really just meeting people and just learning from them. Because I think we're not in competition with each other. We're not going after the same type of business development. So you really have a certain level of camaraderie of, hey, we're all in this together. And whether you're a student, associate, maybe you just went independent or your career change or anything like that, I think FPA has really just provided a platform for just everyone to just feel welcome, and just this grind that we call our day-to-day careers. Mm.
That's awesome. Again, I think like we've talked about this whole episode, just it comes down to the community. Build your community, build people around you that are like-minded in the same profession and just want to grind and be the best people we can be in the industry. So that's awesome. Thanks for letting us turn the tables and ask you guys some questions.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Alayna, for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Well done. This has been the Blueprint, an FPA Next Gen podcast, and we will catch you in the next episode.